Hello. I felt called to do a little tarot reading for Halloween, so here we are. I'm pulling from the Buffy the Vampire Slayer tarot, as well as the Iris Oracle. And I like to start with the more intense cards first, and then work our way to the nicer ones. So here we are with A Fearful World, which is, a little spooky. Look at these guys. In A Fearful World, makes complete sense in the year of our Dark Lord, 2025. It's been a tough year. Beyond what has been happening politically and environmentally. I know a lot of people who, in their personal lives, they've been having one of the toughest years they've had maybe ever. And so I think that when I look at this card, though, and I look at these little demon guys, and she's kind of trying to block them out, I'm kind of almost getting that these guys are thought forms, that are making the situation. So I think there's Zen Buddhist stuff that's there's the situation that is happening, there is your external reality, and then there is your perception of it and your relationship to it and your reaction to it. So just to say, it doesn't mean that things aren't hard or challenging, or that you might not be experiencing grief of some sort. But with these little demon guys, it feels like there's a lot of thoughts that are making it all feel a little bit harder than it maybe could if there were more supportive thoughts. So these thoughts might be this will never end. This situation that is bad and hard is going to be permanent. This is going to be the rest of my life. Nothing is ever going to get better. This situation can't be redeemed. There's no hope in sight. And anyway, I don't mean to go on and on and on about these negative little thoughts, but I just think those thoughts feel like what is the fear, right? And so I think part of the message I'm getting with this card is just that not to gaslight anyone and say things aren't rough, but the fear can maybe intensify things and or create a challenge on top of a challenge. So good news, we move right into the Death card. And this is another kind of intense card, but this is the Buffy deck, so this is these silent creepy guys who float and stuff. But I was really drawn to the fact that they included this little symbol from the Rider-Waite tarot from the Death card. And I'm really getting with the Death card just a death rebirth. And also, the silence in this episode, I believe, was not a super positive thing, but we did come off of having all of this kind of chattery energy. And so to have some silence, the silence might in and of itself be scary, but it also might be kind of a way to reclaim your perspective on the situation. And also with death, it's death rebirth, so it's I'm feeling just the end of patterns that have maybe been very long standing. So it just kind of feels there's this overall clearing energy that is happening. And again, not saying it's not super intense if this message resonates with you. We are in Scorpio season. This is a timeless reading, but if it's your message and it resonates, then it's yours at any time. So with Scorpio energy too, which is the Death card, it's a lot of being willing to go to the challenging stuff so that you can kind of set yourself free from it. I've been reading a lot of books of the nature that are basically saying feel it to heal it. So kind of instead of thinking it, or this would be the nervous system being really contracted and kind of on edge and really in a state of fight or flight. And this is kind of saying if you can kind of quiet the mind and just feel what's coming through in your body, then you can kind of, because we have alchemy, and I'm going to say more about alchemy later. But there is just this definite energy of transmuting a lot of heavy, intense energies and creating something very good and positive. And I will get to that. But I just feel death is kind of saying things are going to be different, and that is actually a good thing. Even if there is maybe some loss involved or some pain involved, there's also, the star, there's healing. So I think that's like kind of where this reading is heading, and like what this reading is about is where you're at right now in your journey is not permanent. And this isn't like end game where you are right now. This is like merely actually the beginning of something much larger. So it feels like it might be like the end of the world. We do have Judgment here. And Judgment in this deck, it's Anya, and it's talking about how like she had this whole past life where she was a demon that cursed men. And now like she's kind of like learning how to be human and like learning about commerce and stuff and like kind of learning how to forgive and like kind of learning this whole new way of being. And so Judgment, I think, is just kind of related to this message I've been getting here, which is like, this isn't the end of the world. This isn't the end of your life. This isn't the end of all hope. This is actually the beginning of something much more radically different that you maybe cannot see. You know, it might feel dark where you are, but that doesn't mean that that's where, that's like, it's kind of like being a seed in the ground kind of cliche thing, but Judgment feels like this is like kind of a moment of calling on you to kind of step out of these old patterns and kind of heal them, again, the star, so that you can kind of have this life that's very cool. So I also see here the 8 of Cups, which is like definitely like moving on from situations. And we have the 10 of Stakes or 10 of Wands. So with these two cards, it's like I'm getting a lot of like almost like birthing energy. Not that I have any experience with that personally, but it's just sort of like what feels like pain, what feels like difficulty, what feels like it's taking every last inch of my strength to like go on and push forward and like just live day to day. It's actually like kind of that you're moving on from like, yeah, again, these old patterns and these old ways of relating. So I feel like I'll just talk about the star and maybe Judgment at the same time. It just feels like there's this like kind of like healing going on at like a deep cellular level, as in like it's not just like healing, it is healing thought patterns, but it's like those patterns are like maybe being healed because it's like you're alchemizing your feelings, and these might be like long-standing feelings that you've had for like since your childhood or something, and you're like kind of maybe feeling a lot of stuff, yes, but that feeling is kind of like, yes, alchemizing it, healing it, and like releasing it so that you can, like as Judgment says, like be called into this version of you that's like got it, you know, like that like isn't going to be maybe so burdened by all of this fear, because spoiler alert, where we are headed is the Lovers, and I am going to talk about this card purely in terms of love. So yeah, like basically that's sort of what the vibe is you're moving from a state of fear to a state of love. And that kind of looks like death, you know, or it might feel like death, but it isn't, is like a key. And it really is kind of this judgment of kind of like, how am I going to face maybe some of my biggest fears and kind of like make some peace with them too. So yeah, I mean, like I said, alchemy. So this is like very much like, I think also I really want to say just something I've been really working on is like a new relationship to my nervous system. And I have found personally that doing stuff that's like really fun is very healing. So also with death, like I do want to reiterate that death can be like the death of like the old fearful self that kind of like was holding you back but trying to keep you safe. So there is like this like letting go, there is this kind of like ending, but again, it feels more like a beginning than an ending, even though it may look and feel like an ending, if that makes any sense or if that resonates. And so yeah, this, just to reiterate, it's gonna maybe like take a lot of your energy. If you're feeling exhausted all the time, it might be indeed because of all this alchemizing you're doing. And Eight of Cups is moving on from stuff. So I do feel like it is possible, like if this were like a relationship reading, maybe this is kind of like ending a relationship that you've been putting a lot into that just like hasn't been working. And then maybe like entering a period of like being single, which is like feels like a death. It feels like an end. But really, that's like creating all this space. And it's like kind of like, yeah, giving you also the space to heal. And I'm not saying it's a breakup. It could be like that you've already been in separation. And it's not even a love reading per se, although it kind of is. Spoiler, it kind of is, but like it doesn't have to be, you know? It's just energy, so you can apply it however that makes sense to you. But let's, for the sake of just talking about it, call it a love reading. It could be that like you're in separation from someone too, and like in the separation you're both able to heal, and you're able to like kind of do the work to become more of the person that you wanted to be, that you didn't feel like you could be when you were with that person. And maybe that brings you back closer together, you know? But, or it helps you find the right person, but it does feel like space after death. Again, there was a lot of silence here too. And there's kind of like a dual message of like, use your voice, speak up, tell the truth, like, you know, be honest and be real about how you feel to yourself and others, but also that kind of like in the quiet and in kind of like what feels like an end, like new things can bloom. And that is leading us to this Two of Stakes, which is the Two of Wands. So like, I don't even, like, she's like kind of looking at like two different stakes in this, you know? But maybe this is just you kind of like at some point realizing that you've changed. I mean, this is like the big crux of the thing. And then this healing because of all this like alchemizing work that's happening. So because all of this energy within you is shifting, maybe due to some pain, maybe due to like just confronting some fears, maybe due to like realizing like you cannot keep going the way you can't carry this 10 of Wands anymore, and you have to like move on and do things differently. I mean, then, you know, it just, you might be weighing your options, and you might be seeing kind of like, well, what paths can I take? Like, I was reading this book called Bending Reality by Victoria Song. I don't know if I completely recommend it, but essentially her argument is there's only two states of being. There's contraction and expansion. And if you're contracted, you're in this state, you're, you know, anxious, you're fearful, you're sad, you're like overwhelmed, you're feeling hopeless, you're feeling powerless, you're feeling attacked, you're feeling betrayed, like that, all that kind of energy. Or you can be in a state of expansion, and I will hold up this card while I talk about that. You can be in a state of like love and joy and like hope and like, you know, just positive feeling or like laughter or just contentment, gratitude, like those kinds of positive feelings. So, and she's just saying like when we're in the contracted state, we don't see all the possibilities that there might be, you know. So this kind of warrants more black and white thinking. And, you know, like when we're in the dark, it's hard to see. And this star feels like you're kind of like learning how to see the light that is there, you know, like you're kind of focusing, you're able to focus on like, how am I going to heal? How am I going to change? How am I going to, again, alchemize stuff? How am I going to transmute all of this difficult, heavy energy? How, like, you're looking for your path to healing. Maybe you haven't found it, or maybe you're on the path, but like, I just feel like healing is a big part of this. Again, maybe because there's kind of like this, like, I can't go on anymore the way I've been going on, so I am going to change. And I think that that all happens. And when that happens, oh, by the way, I should have pulled this up. Everything will be okay. Like, this is a card I got right from the beginning. And maybe I should have talked about this card right from the beginning, but everything will be okay. And that's literally all this card says, and all it means is like everything will be okay. So when you were starting here, I think maybe we needed this card, everything will be okay. But maybe you're like, maybe part of the reason why it took me a while to like even introduce this card is because like at some point, like you're really gonna start feeling this. So even if that isn't like immediate, and even if that isn't like where you start your journey, at some point you're going to, like, through doing this healing and through like kind of being real with yourself and being real with others and like facing everything, you're gonna kind of actually get this sense, like, even if I don't know how everything's gonna be okay, even if I don't see it, even if I don't like, you know, understand yet, I do believe, I do have faith that everything will be okay. So like, I feel like you kind of arrive here and then you get to this Two of Stakes, which is you kind of like weighing these options and seeing like kind of where can I go from here. And I mentioned the Victoria Song Bending Reality book because of the whole like black and white thinking. Like, I think this is also you stepping out of black and white thinking and kind of seeing more possibilities and kind of like being open to the fact that like maybe you don't even need to know how you're going to get where you're going. You just kind of are like grabbing onto, holding on to the sense of like, I got myself and like I can trust myself and I'm healing and I got this. Okay, because we also got the Queen of Pentacles, and this is like one of the Slayers, one of Buffy's predecessors. Queen of Pentacles energy, I feel like this is you just kind of finding like a sense of stability. So this could be like more financial stability is coming in your way, but like also with the Queen of Wands, I think stability is sort of like a state of mind, and it can be like feeling like you have community around you. It can be feeling like you are just figuring out how to like take account of like the resources you do have and have gratitude for them. It just feels like more solid ground basically than maybe where we started. So the Queen of Pentacles just feels kind of like grounded. And so it either is like that your situation is improving with the Queen of Pentacles, or just that you are able to see the way things have already been good. Like you're kind of like getting that like new perspective shift. And then we move into the Chariot and the Lovers. So this feels like you kind of moving ahead. The Chariot, I think, is like maybe you kind of like catch on to some direction to go toward. But it's like kind of like taking the reins. I mean, I pulled on the Libra new moon, I pulled some tarot cards, and my question was like, how can I bring more balance to my nervous system? And the cards I pulled were the Chariot and the Ten of Cups, which is similar. And I felt like that message was kind of like, in order to like balance your nervous system, like move more toward more of what you love. So there is that like kind of Joseph Campbell quote. It's like, follow your bliss. I also have a friend who has been doing really well, but her advice to me was like, it's like, you don't have to know the path. Like you don't have to know the thing that is going to work. You just have to like kind of pick something and give it your all. So with the Chariot, I feel like this is you kind of like making a commitment to moving forward with something in your life. And that Chariot energy moves you towards the Lovers. And I wanted to talk about the Lovers. This might be a relationship. I mean, not all tarot readers read the Lovers as that, but I mean, look at them. You know, they're like very clearly in love. And I was really drawn to the fact that I felt like the Alchemy card and the Lovers kind of had some similar energy going on. Like in this deck, it has like the little like ribbon around them, and then here like there's like a little ribbon, and like there's like two figures. So it just felt like there's kind of like this like divine energy surrounding them in both of these cards that like is sort of bringing them together. So I feel like that's really the message, is like, maybe even we could call it like moving from a place of fear to a place of more faith. But kind of like the more you can like kind of transmute, alchemize some of like the pain or the fear or like the trauma, and like especially working with like the body, and kind of maybe this is like either like deep breath meditation, or for me, like I have found like dance classes have been really super healing, because I'm like getting like literally into my body and like moving my body in ways that like let it express itself, and it gets me out of my mind as well, which is like huge. So, but whatever for you, again, to just recap, the healing path that you're finding is yours. Everything will be okay. It's like you're moving into that. And then it kind of leads you to the state of love, the state of like union. So again, this could like literally for sure be like an actual love reading. This could be, in like layman's terms, kind of like being in like a bad toxic relationship, not being able to like carry the weight of that anymore, needing to move on from it, knowing it, facing the breakup of that, and then kind of like dealing with who am I really? Who do I want to be? How can I kind of heal from this? How can I call in more of what I actually want instead of repeating this pattern? And then that sends you on this healing journey of kind of like alchemizing some of the things that were like painful or hard, kind of grieving the loss. But it's like a lot of healing. And this is like also you rediscovering your joy, rediscovering what lights you up, rediscovering like the directions that you actually want to go in, and kind of like seeing more options and more possibilities, and kind of like having fun with it again, and realizing like you got yourself and you're grounded in yourself, so therefore everything will be okay. And then that all would lead you to the right person. Or again, if this is a separation period, then it's just both of you moving through the fears that prevented you from really like connecting the first time and from making it work then. So then the ending was kind of like you both being on that path of healing independently and alchemizing kind of some of the stuff that was like blocking you, and facing all of that, and then knowing everything will be okay, getting grounded in yourself, and then moving towards stuff that lights you up, and then somehow magically, without you needing to force it, because I think that's like a key element, it's like then you would be brought back together. So I'm not predicting anything in terms of like that. I think for me with these, again, these like ribbons of like divine energy, I think what's key here is like the faith element of you kind of like being able to trust that you are supported and that you are like okay, and that everything will be okay. And through that kind of like faith, it just, I think, and like through like letting that faith also heal you, it's bringing you to where you're meant to be, like to a place of connection, to a place of harmony, to a place of vulnerability, but feeling safe in that vulnerability. Everything will be okay. To just feeling the love and being able to receive the love as much as you give the love. And I think that's basically the reading. So in it probably is love. I mean, this could be like a calling, you know, we did talk about callings with judgment. So I think the lovers could equally be like you in union with like a creative project that like means everything to you and that like lights you up, and where you like get to be the star, and where you like get to connect with people through that kind of art that you're sharing with people. So I think the lovers can be interpreted in many ways, but it does feel kind of like you ultimately arriving at a energetic state of love and faith, and like also feeling grounded and feeling okay, and being able to like kind of bring in just kind of more beauty, very Venusian. And this is a Gemini card. Gemini's ruled by Mercury, but whatever, my Venus is Gemini, so maybe that's why I associate Gemini with Venus. Anyway, I think that's my reading. So great. I hope you enjoyed, and have a happy Halloween, and I'll see you again next time. Bye.